The meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as trustee Dr. Carol Harrell leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask your guidance and blessings upon this board, our students, parents, patrons, our teachers and administrators, as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is authorized in accordance with Texas Government Code Sections 551.001 through 5.146. The next item of business on the agenda is the Superintendent's report. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Chumley and members of the board, as is our tradition at our December regular meeting, we are going to ask a group of talented young come in and put us a little bit more into the holiday spirit. So as they file in, and you may have heard them before our meeting began, this is the John Folks Middle School, Dr. John Folks Middle School Choir, and they will perform a little bit for us tonight.
I thought they were a high school.
One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, like bells raising the sound, hallelujah. Gayly they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On they send on and on, and their joyful tone to every home. Down on the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, "Don't cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, making them all. Ding dong, ding dong, that is a song with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, holly bells raising the sound, hallelujah, hallelujah. Gayly they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding, merry, merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. On they send on without end their joyful tone to every home. On they send on without end their joyful tone to every home. You might get an awful itching to give somebody a big holiday smooch. Or if you would look above your head, you see the green and white and red, and put that little plant gulp to use. It's a fearsome old tradition in the doorway kitchen, and there's hardly anyone who can escape. Let me out of here! If you stand inside the doorway, someone's bound to make it your way, and unless you duck real fast, too late. I want no part of this holiday kissing. I know just what I'm missing, and it's fine. When my uncle kissed his fiancée, I thought they would be there all day. I don't want any part of mistletoe. No, 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 no. I don't want any part of mistletoe. When on Bertha nearly drowned me when she put her arms around me and said, "Fancy that? Why, there's a mistletoe." It was most unpleasant, but I knew she had my present, so I let her kiss me while I held my nose. I want no part of this holiday kissing. I know just what I'm missing, and it's fine. I don't want to smooch or kiss or peck, not on my cheek or face or neck. I don't want any part of mistletoe. No, 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 no. I don't want any part of mistletoe. Once this kid across the street came to our house for a treat, hoping for a cookie or some pie. that kid until I thought he died. Everyone's into this holiday kissing. I know just what I'm missing, and it's F-I-N-E, fine. From Redford far to Rover, when will kissing time be over? I don't want any part of mistletoe. No, 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 no. Ouch. Well, maybe. Nah, I don't want any part of mistletoe. Ugh.
Yay. Ladies, thank you. We really appreciate you our meeting with such a positive note. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice job. So, knowing that I can't possibly top that, I will be quick with the rest of my remarks. I'll just say a few things. One is that we recently had our magnet school fair, our magnet high schools. In the past, we've done that on one site, and it has been so packed, it really was hard to have conversations between parents and teachers and administrators and kids. And so we ran two simultaneous sites that night. They were both packed with people. So large demand for that really fine high school programming. Speaking of one of our magnet schools, we recently held the J Science and Engineering Academy Science Fair, and I know a number of us go and welcome the judges and look at some of the students' work. And two things occurred to me. One is the number of returnees, some of whom I know I've seen 5 and 6 and 7 years in a row, as well, of course, as the rigor of some of the work. I've said to staff that I judge my own ignorance by my inability to pronounce even the title project, much less the meat of it. So some really impressive work as usual. Thanks to our foundation board, President Tomas Laralde and the rest of the board, and Cassandra Miranda and our partnerships office, a really nice event where the partnership between the district and the foundation are honored each year. Very nice event. Also, thanks to Principal Kendra Merrill and her staff at Oak Hills Terrace on their 50th anniversary celebration. Really nice celebration in that community of a school that really is a neighborhood school. Absolutely, it was designed that way and still is that way today. Thanks to Mrs. Reed for her involvement. The ACOG recognition of Go Public recently, I was able to go and accept the award on behalf of, so thank you, Ms. Reed, for your involvement in that recognition. I want to thank all of our trustees for the pre-session legislative luncheon that we held last Friday. I thought we had a really good conversation about our priorities. There was particular interest in charter school expansion as an issue. You heard that a lot, not just but from our delegation as well. Just quick congratulations to a couple of our athletics teams who are into the playoffs. The O'Connor volleyball team qualified for state semis, and the Brandeis football team actually played in the state quarters this year. So congratulations to those kids, their coaches, and their parents. And I'll say what you saw tonight is a small of literally hundreds of events, holiday events that are going on at campuses all around the district, able to make a few, and it's always nice to see kids not only doing what they love to do, but doing it at a really high level. And so to all, happy holiday, Christmas to all of you. Mrs. Chumley, that concludes Superintendent's report.
All right. Next item in business is a board member's report. Do any trustees have anything they'd like to share? Dr. Harrell.
I think I'm going to let Karen go first because we have some esteemed colleagues here. So I still want to talk, but I'm going to pass it on to Karen if that's
All right.
okay. Thank
Karen.
you.
Ms.
Okay.
Freeman?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harrell. I don't want to steal, Dr. Callahan, I want to steal your thunder here, but I do want to recognize 3 of my fellow TASB director peeps that are here with us tonight for our anticipated recognition of Superintendent of the Year. Robert Westbrook, Trustee Shirt Cibolo, Universal City ISD. You all know Robert and Sandy Huey from Northeast ISD. We see them all the time here in Region 20, and we certainly appreciate their advocacy and their involvement with our local issues. And then there's Dr. Ann Callahan. And Ann's all the way here from Stephenville ISD. She serves as their board president. And you've been on that board now for what, 18? Yeah, 18. And she served her last year on the TASB board as chair of the Member Services Committee. And that's that interviews the superintendent of the year and selects the superintendent of the year. And I want to I think, Robert, you served on that committee. I've served with Andy. You're currently on that committee. And I know firsthand how much you all work and how much time you put into that, and certainly appreciate all that you do. Dr. Callahan also just recently retired as professor of Tarleton. She's a professor in Tarleton University and as the curriculum and instruction coordinator for teacher prep there. Very involved, and I'm sure she's looking forward to what's next as she moves forward. But thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. We did have a TASB board meeting a couple weeks ago, and a couple things I want to draw your attention to. We had a report on the social media campaign. Y'all were familiar regarding that with the last legislative session. To receive additional updates on advocacy, if you would text schools, that's with a plural, schools, to 313131. And you'll be getting updates ASB on what's going on in the legislative session. You might be familiar with the website, but I'll remind you, TexasForStrongPublicSchools.org. They're active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I haven't gotten that far yet, but hopefully somebody will show me what Instagram. Also, Region 20, we've gone live with the Facebook page for Region 20 trustees. So if you haven't already done so, you should have received at least a couple invites. Please like that page. I know that my two fellow trustees that are here that help moderate that page for me, I think 100% word has liked the Region 20 page, and I think we're close to being there. So a challenge to my fellow board members. There'll be a lot of, hopefully, about some different things that we're going to do with this legislative session. So please at least like the page so you'll be getting information, and it'll be an opportunity for us to engage in conversation about what's going on and ideas across Region 20. Also, the TASB Legislative Conference, February 26th. Linda put that information last Friday letter. It is free, but you must register. And we were also told on February 25th, and perhaps Dr. Woods, we can get some more information, a PTA rally on the day before that legislative session. So if we have an opportunity, that might be something that we might want to attend in Austin. And the XG Summit is scheduled for January 10th through the 11th, led by Phil Gore and Leadership Team Services and TASB. Linda McGee also had something about that in Friday letter. I have a flyer that I'll share with you later. And your attention, our own trustee, Bobby Blunt, will be presenting on that Friday, January the 11th. From 8:30 to 9:30 on exceptional governance to achieve desired outcomes. So I would encourage you to think about going there, and we can support Bobby Blunt. And Dr. Woods, every time I turn around, I just want to say kudos and thank you. You've been on panels across the state talking about public education and advocating, and I know you've had a lot of passion with prior legislative sessions, but I've never seen more fire in your belly, so to speak, than this time. So thank you, and because of the discussion, especially at our legislative luncheon, you know that you have support. We support you in all of that. So thank you, Ms. Chumley.
All right, thank you. Dr. Harrell?
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to acknowledge and applaud one of our board superintendent goals that started last year and continuing this year was to involve more of our fifth graders in their feeder middle school early on. And throughout Twitter, every single day, there's been something about an event or an activity or a showcase where our fifth graders have been going to the middle schools, and then our middle schools also going to the high schools to start transition and just getting to know the school where they will attend much better and feel much more comfortable. But I think there's something magical that happens when it's get with younger students. And I got to see that the other day with Hobby visiting Clark High School, and kids not even having to ask where the bathroom is anymore, side by side, simultaneously doing hour of code activities, avid activities, and so on. But age seemed to be not an issue, but more this collaboration. At that same time, I got to see code where and help me with the group of future teachers. It's
Are you talking about the one
in
that's
high
currently
school?
with
Yeah.
staff? I can't recall the name.
I
but
can't
it's
either.
It's a class, it's a program.
It's like it's those young adults, men and women, young men and young women that want to be teachers, and they had brought in special ed students, and they were doing hour of code with them. One of the neatest activities was musical fruit, where they had programmed, they had built a code and had all kinds of wires going into fruit, and the kids were hitting it with their elbows, with their nose, with their fingers, and doing jingle bells and all kinds of things. And again, it was just pure joy. And I just wanted to say this was all housed in a library. And for those of you who haven't been in our libraries, again, I've said it 100 times, they're not your mother's library anymore. And so there's no shushing, no standing in line to check out a book, no card catalogs. It's interactive, engaging, high level of collaboration. So kudos to both our elementary, our middle school, elementary, middle, and high schools for doing transition activities now and showcasing what feeder schools have to offer incoming students, and then also the hour of code. Speaking of, we had a wonderful where the actual author of the book joined us. One of my favorite authors, educators, Jimmy Casas, and he wrote a book, Culturize Every Student, Every Day, Whatever It Takes. And some of our most profound comments come from our educators, and he was blown away through his comments and his responses. So hats off again, Ed Chat. I do want to throw another challenge to the board. Let me see. I need another board member or two to join me. I'm going to do an Ed Chat next month, and it's on elephants. Miss Chumley, you'll like this one. Shares common challenges we all face of too much to do, too many priorities, too much stress, and too little time. It sounds like
And what is that?
it's called Juggling Elephants, and it's an Ed Chat, and they're real easy to do. And we're meeting next Friday at 8 o'clock. I will bring tacos or donuts if I can. Another board member, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 to join me. That would be great.
And where is it?
At the
Doing it.
IT, John Moran and Lisa Casas are going to do it with me, or they're going to set it up, but it can.
Who is it through, Carol?
It's through Northside, through our professional learning department.
Great.
Yeah, the monthly Ed Chats are learning in bite-sized chunks through Twitter.
That's great.
It's real easy, I promise. Okay,
I'm
so
still waiting for the Twitter lessons. So.
I know you can learn it at the same time, I promise you. And when I put my glasses on, I noticed this is point of pride, I have a special guest here tonight, Natalie Pellegrin. She is my ISM mentee, and I want to brag on her for a minute. She's from John Marshall High School, and I showed her my graduating picture, which she didn't laugh or poke fingers or say, haha, it's in black and white. But she did smile a little bit. Anyway, her ISM project, and this is an official announcement, is that she is going to run for President of the United States as soon as she's 35, 36. We'll work. We've got plenty of time. And she's studying how to run a campaign. And so she started out, we may do a mock campaign. We're not real sure. We're meeting with all kinds of people who are giving us coaching lessons. We found out there's not a lot out there on how to run a campaign, especially if you're young. And so she's starting very locally. How do you run a campaign at a high school? And then we're, of course, going to cover school board trustees, and then city, state, and federal. So in April, they'll do their presentations, and hers is going to knock everybody's socks off. So Natalie, can you just wave so everyone can see you and look at your smile? Now do the presidential wave. There we go. There we go. Thank you for being here. That's it, Madam President.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
Thank you, President Tony. I actually have a number of things that I need to talk about that I did. The first thing I would like to do is say thank you to all of my board members who were at the presentation that I received the North Star Award from the Women's Chamber, and thank you for nominating me for that. That makes it so very special to me, and I really do appreciate all of you being there. It was a wonderful evening, and the fact that I was able to have all 10 children with me at the same time, because it was my husband's birthday the day before, and he turned, I'm not going to tell you what. Anyway, it was very special, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that. I was at the Reddick Center along with a lot of other people for their 25th anniversary. And since I was on the board already when we dedicated and built the Reddick Center, that was also very special for me. But what was really special was the kids that were there and made presentations, and especially the one girl who had already graduated from the Reddick Center, and she came back and did a co-hosting job with the principal. And they were actually delightful. And just this week, I went to the HEB out on De Zavala and I-10, and there she was, bagging groceries.
Oh.
And she has been offered a job with HEB. So the success story that goes on at the Reddick Center for these kids, and it's wonderful to see that happening. I happened to have been in Dallas when our O'Connor girls volleyball team was up there in the semifinals at state level. And I wanted you all to know that they were playing at a stadium in Garland, not a stadium, a large gym. From the outside is very, very impressive. It is very, very big, but the seats go back so far you can hardly see see the floor, and it looked like a barn inside. So, and they did not have a jumbotron. So we are still ahead of them. And it was a match, and difficult to lose, but they played a good game. The other team probably on average was, what would you say, Brian, at least 6 to 10 inches taller than all. The whole team, other team, was this much taller than anybody on the team from O'Connor. So wanted to let all of you know that most of you all know I still play tennis, and I play on an over 65 team that has now won the region, and I will be going to the nationals. So I am actually going to miss the dinner that we have for the board. And I do not want you all to change the date, because we had a hard enough time finding a date, and the school's all ready for us. But I will be out in Surprise, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix, and be playing tennis. I'm not the big star on this team. That's the kids who are in their 65, just turned 65. But I will still be there playing, and that's what keeps me healthy. So
Is that what you did before? Because you've been in
Yeah.
those finals before.
yeah,
Kathy
this is
said.
the third time I will have been out there with the
Yeah,
team.
that's what I thought.
Last year I didn't go because I had a bad leg. So anyway, I'm going to miss the board dinner and also Gerlach, because that's the same weekend.
Yep.
So I also did attend a retirement ceremony for Bill Reeves. You know who Bill is. He works for Marmon Mock and has worked with us for many, many years, and he is now retiring in about a week, I think. And he's actually going to be moving next summer out to Santa Fe, where he's building a home right now. So I just wanted to let you all know that. I am the board's representative to NEF, and as such, I was at the NEF banquet along with a couple of people. And Dr. Woods mentioned that people were honored there. Well, two of the people that were honored were Dr. Woods and Meredith. And so them are, I can't remember what you were called. I know you got a big apple. Unsung heroes. Thank you, thank you. They both received that along with about 4 other people. So the interesting part was their son was sitting at the table, and when they ended up being up on the stage, he said, "Huh? Like, where's my award?" So it's a wonderful family situation that is certainly a big, big part of Northside. I was pleased that that ACOG chose to honor the group that we had recommended to receive an award, and asked Dr. Woods if he would write or present that nomination for the Go Public campaign. And in case you're not aware, ACOG is the Alamo Council of Governments, and most of the people on that board are county judges, mayors, city councilmen, et cetera, and there's one person who represents school boards, and that would be me for a 13-county region. So it was great to know that there aren't that many awards given. One is for an outstanding person, and one is for an outstanding program of some sort. And so we did this one with Go Public, and they certainly felt that it deserved the award because it represents not just Northside, but the entire area, and that's what made it so special. So last night, I was at the District 8 meeting that our city council person has. That's Manny Pelaez, thank you. I always want to say Pelaez, and I know that's not right. Had for the community, and a couple of months ago, he had decided that one of the things that he would like to put in place was some participatory budgeting. And in doing that, then there are community members who are able to get together and sit in groups and figure out some ways of spending some of his money. And there was a category for education. And so I had been made aware of that and asked if we would like to put in that. So I contacted the school district and was told that probably the person that should serve on that committee is Jessica Palomares. And if you'd come forward, Jessica, I'm going to let her tell you about what happened, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Yeah, so we were given the opportunity to participate in District 8 Participatory Budgeting Committee, and through that process, he allocated $25,000 for communities. And so there were 4 main categories: youth and education, senior services, and community events. So Northside put in a proposal for cyberbullying and David's Law's presentation. And so in working with Dr. Ridgely in the counseling department, we really felt there was a need in educating our students, our parents, and our teachers in ending cyber-assisted bullying. And so through this, we're going to partner with David's Legacy Foundation and bring presentations to all the secondary schools in District 8. And so Garcia, Hobby, Rawlinson, and Stinson Middle School will be a part of that proposal, as well as Brandeis, Clark, and Health Careers for a grant of $6,250. And right now, currently, the principals will be working with this and determining the best way to do those presentations during the day or combo of both.
So we were presented this as well as receiving that award. And so thank you to Jessica for being a part of that.
Very good, very good.
And I'm not sure where we keep the certificate, so you all can
We'll find a
figure that
place
out.
for it. Not a problem. Not a problem.
So thank you, that's tonight.
All right, great, thank you, Ms. Reed. All right, Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Ms. Chumley. I'll just be real brief. I know I guess, piggyback on what has already been said. John Jay's science fair was remarkable. The students' projects, not only were they case studies, but there was also innovative products that were built in their infancy stage, but also when interviewing several of the students, there were, tremendous gains of where they're going in their product and where they overlap in multiple disciplines, whether it's in the medical field, whether it's in robotics, whether it's in the environmental stages, fields. And so there was a lot of unbelievable studies from climate change to direct assisting political directions on how to address some of these current issues, as well as possibly future issues of the current climates. As well, I just wanted to congratulate all those fall sports, the football teams. We attended some of the Brandeis Broncos football games, and there was a couple moments during those weekends that they were once in a lifetime experiences. And congrats to those seniors, to the staff, to the parents, to the band, everyone that's tied into the cheerleading groups that help support those athletes in their successes. That's it. Thank you, Ms. Tremley.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, no, I'm going to just piggyback off of what Joseph said too as well. I did attend the science fair. It was great. It was phenomenal. I did judge one of the projects there, and it was very interesting, and it'll kind of make you want to really think about what you purchase, and when it has to do around name brands. One student did a test about how to pick a lock with a key, right? Just the one that you put on your gate. Well, he really went into it and learned how to pick a lock, but what he was really fascinated with was that the name brands aren't always the best ones to keep you at ease when you're securing your property. So that was I really enjoyed that, and he really took the time to really learn that project, and I don't know where he ranked in it, but to me, it was like, man, that was really very informative.
Was it like a lock like you put
the
on
lock
your
that you would
gate?
put on
Like
your
you
gate,
put on
right.
your gate?
And I'm not going to name any names because I don't
Like
want
with
to
a key?
Yeah,
like
the key
like
lock,
you
yeah.
normally do that?
It wasn't the name brand that was.
I've got a
That's-
gate
That
that
was
I
the
can't get the
easiest
lock
to
open
pick.
on.
He said that was the easiest to pick. So, as well as, piggybacking off of what Mr. Medina said, congratulations to Jerry Berger and David, the head coach of Brandeis. They did a great job, phenomenal job. And I have to say that the kids played very well, I want to say professional, and it was exciting. Both games that I attended, they were just to see our kids with the sportsmanship, but that goes to a lot of what Jerry Berger does, as well as Stan Lang and his coaching staff, really teaching the kids to be professional or to be good models of the district, and they really represented us very well. Very little fouls going on in the game, so my hat off to them, and that's pretty much it. That was all that I was able to attend, so thank you.
All right. Okay, and I just have a couple of things. Number one, we have such a diverse school district, and our kids are involved in so many things, and I like that that's what we get to hear about during our board reports. So I want to report on the O'Connor FFA. The senior parliamentary team just won first in state, and will be going to nationals, which in parliamentary procedure, it's a very competitive and program, and so kudos to them. I think it's actually an all-female team, too, if I'm not mistaken. I'll find out for sure, but I think so. And then Catherine Riley, who is a young woman who is a senior at O'Connor, who comes from a long, very involved ag family in our school district, won second in Creed speaking, which, the FFA has a creed. I believe in the I can't remember it. It's been too many years. I know, I can't believe. Anyway, and so they speak, it's for public, it's their speaking. And so it's the same, the creed, every student reads the same, but it's really the emotion they put into it, how they enunciate. Anyway, so we're very proud of Catherine as well, and so I just let y'all know about that. I wanted to invite all of trustees, 12:30 on December 18th. We're having the Holmes Athletic Luncheon that we've had in the past. Holmes's X's and O's may not reflect it, but they have had a lot of progress this year. And the coaches really are working on building the athletic schools, but also the character of our young men. And I would appreciate if any of y'all can come. It's
18th.
Tuesday, December 18th at 12:30 at Holmes.
12:30.
At 12:30. And it's going to be great fajitas.
Good.
And then, Mr. Hare, I thank you for being here and being part of our fine arts program. Thank you so much. I'm sure it had something to do with the Folks Middle School Choir being here, and they were wonderful. I really did think they were a high school choir when I heard them before the meeting. Thank you very much for helping to facilitate that tonight. And at this time, the next item of business on the agenda is recognition. So, Dr. Woods, this time you get to be front
Oh,
and
no,
center.
we're gonna all go down there.
No,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no, 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 you
Just
get to
you,
go.
just you.
And I'd like to, well, wait, I wanted to introduce again, Ann Callahan is the TASB director who will be presenting to our Superintendent of the Year presentation to Dr. Woods. Board member from Stephenville ISD, it's where my family's from, actually. And you led the committee at McNally. And that you led the committee that selected Dr. Woods as Superintendent of the Year. We are so very happy to have you here with us and our other district trustees. Thank you very much for taking the time. It's not like y'all don't have your own board meetings that you have to spend time at, but we really appreciate that you took the time to come. We're proud of our Superintendent of the Year. And it's so nice to have him on the hot seat here, too, having to get a recognition. So, fellow trustees, if you will join me in front. While they're coming forward, Ms. Callahan, I'm sorry, you need to speak in the mic and address the board.
All right. I know the board knows the selection process, but I'd like for the audience and the community to understand how the selection is made. Each region service center in the state, there are 20. Every year they interview superintendents that are nominated by their boards, just as you nominated Dr. Woods. And they go through a selection process, and each region then selects a superintendent to represent their region. And we had 19 this year that we interviewed in August. 19, and our job was to narrow that down to 5. And the 5 then were selected and interviewed in Austin when we had the annual TASB-TASA convention that was held the end of September. And they came in and we interviewed them and made our selection. And Robert served on that committee. He was kind of like me. He got pulled up because Karen was on the committee and several others were, and they could not participate. So Robert had done it. He and I had worked on it the year before, and we got to come forward. And I will tell you what I learned from it as a board member was that there are so many great things going on in public schools in Texas. Do not blow our horns loud enough. But your superintendent and your Go Public has done a phenomenal job of blowing your horns. And it is truly an honor for the TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards, the Board of Directors, the committee, the Member Services Committee, to have Dr. Brian Woods represents all the superintendents in the states because he truly does shine. And I was leaving my superintendent's office yesterday to come here to tell him what I was doing. And he said, he's just a real guy. That's a good thing, that you can talk to him and he's honest and he's upfront and he represents this state very well. So it is with a great honor and a great service that we present you with this award that now has your name on it.
Which way?
Thanks so much.
Just suck in my good a little bit.
So while thanks so much. Yeah, good. While the board members are going back to their places so we can continue, I'll just say, as I've had an opportunity to say on many occasions, this award is not about me, it's about we, and the things that we're able to do in our school district start with, at the top. They start with the members of our board and the culture that we're able to create in our system. So thanks to the board members for the nomination, and to all of this community for this is the best job anywhere ever. Just fortunate enough to be in it. So thanks to all of you.
Dr. Brian, you always say that, but we wouldn't be the same without you in that. So we're very appreciative. Thank you all so much for coming. That was very nice. Thank you very much. And it's nice to have it here in our boardroom. Okay, the next item of business on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a come for the board? Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Let me read to you some instructions. Okay, we believe citizens to be heard is important and meaningful, and we will listen to what you have to say. We value your opinions, although we are restrained by law from taking any action. Please use the podium, address your remarks to the board, confine your remarks to a Northside policy or practice, limit your remarks to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, the board secretary, Gerald Lopez, will hold up the yellow card. At 3 minutes, the board secretary will hold up the red card. We ask that you wrap up your remarks at that point. Please do not make personal attacks on individuals. And audience, please refrain from applause or any negative response. And let me explain one piece of it, which sometimes people speaking to the board don't understand. If there's an action item or we're being requested to discuss something and it's not on the agenda, we're not allowed to have the back and forth dialogue on it. And so I think sometimes people don't realize that when citizens are coming to speak to the board. All right, Mr. Lopez?
Yes. If I mispronounce your last name, please forgive me. Linda Lartigue?
My daughter's speaking.
Kaylee? Kaylee? Okay, that's fine.
I'm sorry. You don't understand me because I was using a language that you don't know. What I was saying is, hello, my name is Kayla Tige, and I am a sophomore at the Science and Engineering Academy. September was National Deaf Awareness Month, and I came before you to raise awareness and request some improvements from our deaf and hard of hearing students. When I was growing up, I watched my mom fight for me so that she could make sure that I had everything that I needed to be successful. Through my mom, I have learned to not only advocate for myself, but to also be a strong voice for others who may not have a voice of their own yet. I have made a decision to continue to raise awareness on topics that directly involve the deaf students in our district. When I was here in September, the board played a short video about a teacher who was receiving an award. I don't know if you noticed, but my interpreter quickly stood up and moved so that I could see her and the screen at the same time. She did this because whoever put that video together neglected to add captions. Now, I'm not saying that this was done with bad intentions. What I'm saying is that we don't know what we don't know. This is why I'm here. I'm here to ask the board to implement a standard where everything that is published by our district and all of our school has captions. We need to make sure that as a district, all of the information that is being put out there for families is being done so in a manner in which we are being inclusive of all people. When I started addressing you today, I started out by using ASL, a language which you do not know. How did you feel? Uncomfortable? Lost? Well, this is what we as a deaf community feel every time we see a video that has no captions. My name is Kaylee, but the deaf community knows me as Deaf Girl Evolution. I will continue to work hard to make sure that no deaf or hard of hearing child ever feels alone or isolated or lost. Once again, I ask that a policy be implemented so that, as a district, we can ensure that we are being inclusive of everyone and that all videos are not put out to the public until captions have been added. It honestly is not a difficult task. I am more than happy to walk any one of you and anyone from the district office through adding captions to a video. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with the board to ensure the success and inclusions of all deaf and hard of hearing students. And when someone is signing, it's okay to just walk through. It's not rude. It's rude if you try to like dodge or whatever because you break contact and it becomes distraction. Just
Thank you.
Nice job.
Good job.
Point well taken. Ms. Linda Lartigue.
Okay, so if you signed up together, same paper,
Different papers.
do we have them both?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, I just want to make sure because I was going to ask the board for some
Oh, no,
extra time.
I
So
made sure.
good.
It's
Thank
different
you.
things.
Thank you.
So you're welcome. My name is Linda Lartigue, and I am Kaylee's mom. I have worked really, really hard since she was a baby to make sure not see her deafness as a disability or something that defines her, holds her back, because quite frankly, it doesn't. She is Hispanic, and she's an American, and she is a girl, and she happens to be deaf, and she can do anything that her little heart desires. One thing that I wanted to kind of ask is, what do we need to do to have a topic added to the board's agenda so that we can actually have a discussion and move forward in a positive manner? Because I have a very passionate and determined kid, and so we will come every month to every meeting because that is what she has asked, and she will continue to educate the board on different deaf-related topics, and that's fantastic. I think it's good for all of us to learn something that we don't know, but I think it would be more useful if we were able to find out how to put some things that are concerning to her on the board's agenda so that we can move forward and we're not just educating you.
I will have someone call you and we'll talk about that.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, did I have a couple more seconds?
Sure, you still have 2 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm sorry, I forgot to. When we talk about, sorry, I'm a little nervous. When we talk about the success of deaf students, that comes in many terms, and there's a lot of different things that come into play when we're talking about the kids' success. It's not just their grades. and them passing their class, being successful academically in that manner. But we're also talking about their confidence, the exposure that they get to other deaf students, other signing deaf students, that builds up their confidence. The self-worth that they meet deaf adults, successful deaf adults that are good role models for them. So when we talk about the success of deaf and hard of hearing students, just open your minds to realize that there are so many other things, and as a district we need to make sure that we're not failing these kids. Kaylee had parents who were well educated and who knew what to do for her and for her continued success. Unfortunately, not everybody comes from the same background or the same walk of life, so not all parents have the same advantages that my husband and I have had in life. And so some of these parents, they don't know. And if as educators, we're not telling them what's going to be helpful for their children, they may not know. So these children spend most often more time with us during the day than they do with their parents at home, waking hours at least. And so we need to make sure that these kids, we need to make sure that we're thinking about the psychosocial, emotional component of it, and not just the academics. And do they have an interpreter sitting in the class? But we need to make sure that they have those role models and that they have that access to their deaf peers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next person is Amanda Lerma.
Good evening. I've already forgotten what I wrote down. I'm not quite prepared to represent the deaf community, interpreter community, etc. However,
Deaf awareness is what you had as your topic.
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was about the community. I gave you the wrong one.
Okay, so you have several questions that
I understand.
that we'll
yes.
have answered
Yes.
for you.
So just to present them verbally to everyone, and that the community sees that it is being brought to you fine people, leaders of the district. The community is concerned and would like to know the status. When will the regional day school program for the deaf be returned to its original state? We do understand that an AI classroom has been provided to the elementary school. This is all rumored information. It's concerning that there are not more parents of deaf children present. Unfortunately, that's because they don't know what a lot of people in this room already do know. And that's why we are here, and unfortunately a lot of parents are not. These children need deaf role models, as the previous speaker just mentioned. They need the supplies, the curriculum, the tools that they used to have that for reason have been taken away from them. In the community, we call that deprivation. They are being deprived of their natural language. American Sign Language is very rich, and if their education is being provided to them from their natural language, they're going to learn so much more than when it is a sign language interpreter. And I know because I am a sign language interpreter, and I know the challenges that the students face when the culture is not being taken into consideration when the information is being provided to them. So again, a status update to the community of San Antonio, the deaf and hard of hearing community in San Antonio, as to when will this be returned to its original state. And I understand there are IEPs that are being violated, and the only one that is being honored is the one parent stepped up and said, this is being violated. So we want to know as a community, why are the other ones not being honored? That is against the law. And these parents, unfortunately, don't know to speak up. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it? All right. Thank you very much. The next item of business on the agenda is curriculum instruction, disposal of out-of-adoption instructional materials. Dr. Jordan.
Yes, thank you, President Chumbley, Dr. Woods, and the board. Board policy CMD legal requires that the board approve the way out of adoption instructional materials are disposed of. Currently, the method that the district's been using is to donate these out of adoption materials to charitable organizations. What we're bringing to you this evening is a recommendation to change that process. What we're recommending is that we actually send these materials for recycling, and the funds that we gain from that, we can then reinvest into other instructional materials and technology. So we're asking approval of that change.
All right, do any trustees have any questions? Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. Janice, do we violate any type of rules and when we're disposing of textbooks in any way whatsoever?
Well, we recently had an internal audit, and the recommendation is giving them to the charitable organizations that we might want to reconsider that practice. In addition to that, much of the resources that we buy are only for the state of Texas, so they don't have a lot of appeal beyond the state of Texas. And so we have multiple programs that we purchase each year, but then also kind of sunset. So we think that this is a real opportunity to reinvest in our district.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I see no others. Their motion come for the board. Dr. Harrell?
I move we approve the disposal of out-of-adoption instructional materials.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the disposal out of adoption instructional materials. What I had asked about it because I really liked when we were sending them to other countries that needed text. But my understanding is that a lot of the organizations that used to disperse them are not available, are not doing this anymore, and that it's now costing us more money. Yeah. Yeah. And so with that in mind, until we find a viable option to start doing that again. So seeing no questions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome. The next item of business on the agenda is the strategic design framework. Dr. Jordan.
Yes, thank you. In October, we brought forward an update on the strategic design process. And so tonight we'll review some of the key points from that presentation with the goal of getting your confirmation that we're on the right track and also getting any input that you have for us or direction as to steps you would like us to take. Oops. Oh, it's coming up. I'm going faster than there we go. So you'll see on the next slide that the goal at this point of our strategic design work is to build a strategic design framework. And the idea is that this framework positions us for success. We've had much conversation about the greatness that is Northside and that we want to continue the great things at Northside. So what's in a strategic design framework? We're working on 5 key components. Some of these are going to be familiar and some may not be. One of the pieces that we're really excited about is thinking about forecasting what is our dream for an NISD learner. What competencies do they have? What types of behaviors? We want to outline the learning framework, which basically will show this is what we evaluate in terms of instruction and assessment for students. Of course, the mission and the vision, which is typical in strategic plans. We want core beliefs. And something that we've had in the past is the idea of having a brand.
And a brand is something different than the logo. It helps encapsulate in a very compelling way how Northside stands apart from other districts. We talked about our journey. So we have been working on this since spring 2018. We've had a variety of committees. You'll see that we started with a lot of research. And what the research entailed was looking at what we currently have. What are the current practices in Northside that have proven to provide results, and how do we continue those practices, while at the same time looking at some opportunities to bring in some other ideas that will help us stay competitive. We touch base with the academics committee along the way. In May, we launched a survey to over 12,000 stakeholders. I believe each of you received the survey as well and got a lot of good input there. And then we had 2 work sessions so far. We had 2 days in June where we had community members, business leaders, higher ed, K-12 representatives to spend 2 days really looking at and helping develop the strategic design framework. We had a follow-up day, brought that group back September 18th, and then again presented to you some of these in October. One of the things that we've continued to emphasize, again, this is building upon what's great in Northside. So we know we're a whole host of change that is swirling around us, the changing landscape, the influence of other institutions, the change in politics. But what we've emphasized is in Northside, there may be a lot of change, but there are some things that will always stay the same. So the next slide shows the mantra that in Northside, the promise that we make to our constituents, to not only those who are in Northside, but anyone coming to Northside, is that the zip code will not determine the quality of the teacher, the quality of the school, the quality of the people. And so we're very excited and steadfast. And so we've continued to talk about that promise. So these are the 2 areas that we really would like your thoughts around. Again, I talked about the 5 parts of the strategic design framework. What we're bringing back to you tonight are 2 of those 5 parts. These 2 parts are essential that we get nailed down pretty well before we begin putting the other 3 parts that will be on top of that foundation. One thing I do want to mention is what you're going to see, still probably some wordsmithing that might continue to happen, but you'll see some general gists that came from these committees. So the first is the core beliefs. Because really, before, a mission is what do you do every day? Vision is what are you aspiring to? And the profile of the learner is what are the ways of being we want for our students. What undergirds all of that is what are the common beliefs.
Janice, before you go on,
Sure.
Can I ask you something? So this statement, zip code won't determine, came out of discussions of strategic plan?
No, ma'am. That actually came out. That was part of what Dr. Woods had shared at convocation. That kind of promise.
Well, no, I know where the comment came
Right.
from. I had no problem with that.
So we took that to the team, that's part of what we hold tight in Northside.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. So when we talk about the whole core beliefs piece, we spent some time really separating the idea between core beliefs and beliefs. Because an organization can have a whole host of beliefs, but the core beliefs are ones that everyone in the organization understands, can repeat, can remember, and it drives our work. So how did we get to what we're presenting you tonight? Well, first we surveyed, again, as we talked, researched and surveyed, and we actually asked questions in the survey about beliefs. What do they believe about outcome of our learners? What do we believe are the essential skills that they need? We analyzed all the data through these two meetings that we've had with the larger committee. We worked in consensus in small groups, and then from that piece moved to larger groups. And we looked for trends in that consensus. So what you'll see on the next slide is a draft of core beliefs that came through as trends. So let me generally address each one. The first core belief is about the value of public education. Actually, if you look over at our 2013 through 18, there's actually one of the first comments is about public ed. So that was something very similar to what we had last time. The second belief statement is about ensuring that all students receive a quality education, and that it's equitable and equal. And the group really liked equal and equitable because those don't mean the same thing. The third bullet is about the tenets of the whole child, that we commit to, or we believe that children and people are whole. So not only do we want to grow them academically, but we want to engage them, ensure they're safe and healthy, etc. The fourth bullet is about the relationships, that the school district, the classroom, a campus does not exist in a vacuum. Instead, it's part of the community, not only their surrounding community, but the entire community of Northside and really the city of San Antonio, state of Texas, etc. The last bullet is really getting to the core of the whole idea of the promise we make to parents about every child. We guarantee that they're going to have a quality experience. And so that one is all really means all in terms if you're in a special education classroom, if you're in a bilingual classroom, if you're in an AP classroom, we will focus on every child in every classroom every day. One other belief, which didn't trend through all the groups, but it was strong in several groups, was the idea about, which the research is clear on, the number one in-school factor that impacts student achievement is the classroom teacher. The number two in-school factor is the campus principal. So the group toyed with having some sort of belief statement get to the point of the importance of the classroom teacher and the campus principal. So this is where we are with core beliefs.
Okay, so let me clarify for the board, what is it that you're really needing and looking for and asking from us at this time?
Well, we are needing to move forward. And so for us to move forward, we want if there's any feedback, if there's anything you're seeing that you would like changed, we're planning. We would like to bring the committee back in January. We had talked, I believe in academics, that again, we can schedule it at a time that board members can attend. And so the next step is moving to the vision and the mission and continuing to squeeze these pieces, but then moving to the vision and mission.
Okay, so just from what I've heard from some of our trustees, I think that there is very much support of us having a meeting. I think, Janice, the question has come up as to we want the strategic plan to be driven by our community. So what we would not want is to have this come before us and then the board not support it or have concerns with it. So I think that I'm not sure if just having this discussion here is the best way for us to achieve this. So I think there is going to be some general consensus that the next meeting of your strategic plan committee needs to include as many trustees, I know it's very hard to get all 7 of us at the same time, but we need to plan it at a date where as many of us as possible can attend that. And then I'm going to hold my other remarks until we hear from the rest of the board. Dr. Harrell?
No, I just wanted to add, kind of to your point, Ms. Chumley, there were three of us, I think, who attended the days, either all the days or a good part of it. And what
Actually,
four?
four, because
Oh.
Katie, Gerald, you, and Karen.
And Karen's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. I wasn't counting myself. What I was impressed, I was looking for the community input, and I think what academics got to see were the results of the survey, and then those of us who came that day got to see the color-coded survey responses from all stakeholders involved. And I'm trying to think of the amount.
Well,
How many?
Yeah, we
that were
sent
sent out?
12,000 surveys, and so it was a large group of parents, but again, community members, business leaders, all of our campus principals, all teachers who are on NCN, which those are elected
Right.
teachers. And so, in a Friday letter in October, we sent the results of those
We saw
surveys.
that. I
You
just can't
did.
remember how many
it was-
responses we had out of the 12,000. I can't remember that number.
Yeah, it was a little under, I think, 2,000 responses.
And the community and business leaders and family members that were there that day were very impressed with the time and attention that went into really forming the foundation of the strategic plan, which and allowed them also to build relationships between district staff and community. I do think one of the things that I do remember and see in the PowerPoint that I think is very significant is we kind of started out, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but like this portrait of a graduate, which you typically see strategic plans, and somehow the conversations and the expertise of the group changed from a graduate to, isn't this about learners? Which would encompass not just looking at a kiddo leaving the school in high school, but all the way down to when we first get our children in pre-K and age 3, 3 and 4-year-olds. So I really like that came from the wonderful thinking of the group at hand. And sometimes that doesn't come out when you're doing a more formulaic strategic plan. It was through conversations, and it was through really looking at prior initiatives in Northside, but where Northside needed to go, and the ideas and thinking of the people that showed up that day, plus the survey. So I think sometimes that gets rushed and shortchanged, and it wasn't. And so it allowed some really neat things to come out. And so I do remember, and then also at academics saying, this process may take a little longer and may seem somewhat, and I'm just going to use one of my words I cringe at, fluffy, but the conversations were very powerful. And so anyway, and getting to this core beliefs, if we don't have that kind of solidarity, I guess, and expertise about our core beliefs, then everything else kind of doesn't stick. So anyway, and that took a while. So anyway, but I do think that, I do appreciate wanting and needing to be there when we go to the next phase. So thank you for listening to our request on that.
Sure. Glad to do it. So out of 12,000, we had less than 20% return. Is that?
I would have to go back and look at that. We've got all the specific numbers. We know exactly
Not unusual.
who, what, yeah.
How many are on our committee? 75?
Yeah, we have probably about 80 and 80 total. And so we had a few folks from, I think it was a university. I think we had 4 listed. I think like 8 came. So we had some additional people come that weren't on the additional list. because they
And
were
the
brought by
university
colleagues.
input,
UTSA.
because when I look at this is supposed to be community represented. It's supposed to be the community that's driving this, and the university members.
It's supposed to be, it's not just the community driving it. The different parts of the strategic framework ultimately will be the bedrock that the plan is laid out on, but it's in collaboration of the community and the business leaders and higher ed and K-12.
I really look at Ms. Freeman.
One thing I didn't want lost here too, I wasn't able to stay for 100% of the time, but when I was there, we had students there as well, high school students, and they contributed a significant amount to the conversation, and I felt that they were listened to, and I had an opportunity to talk to couple of them, and they appreciated the opportunity to be there.
It was the most recent valedictorians that were there. One was in Mr. Lopez's group, and they yes, provided a lot of good information.
Any other trustees?
But yeah, I do agree, I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
that's fine.
I do agree with, yeah, I'd like to be again involved in that next process again and to be a part of that. I enjoyed it. And I got to see everybody, so yeah, I'm for that.
That would be terrific.
When I look at core beliefs and the way that you defined and talked about core beliefs, is these are the most important things that matter to us, just the absolute essence of our soul, what matters to us. And I'm sorry, but number 5, I just am not. The most important thing to us all really means all. And I understand what you're saying, but I just am not, I don't care for that, the way it's written. I don't care. I understand exactly what it's saying, but I think that there could be a better way.
Certainly.
To say that than in Northside, all really means all. And Janice, I do not disagree at all with Dr. Woods' comment. I'm not sure if it has a place in the presentation for it. On it, I think that there's things that statement could bring up feelings on lots of different levels with different people on that. So tonight, I still, I guess, want to know what you want us to, and I'm thinking, Carol, when's your next academic committee meeting?
We haven't, but we want to have one in January.
Okay,
We
why
need
don't
one
we
in
have
January.
it early prior to the next date for the strategic plan? And I think that we need to have some more discussion from the board in relation to this. Did you want to show us the rest of?
Sure.
Of what you have in the presentation?
So again, there are 5 pieces of the framework, and so these are 2 that we've got down the street pretty quickly. And I had mentioned before that there's still some wordsmithing, if we can get the sentiment and that wordsmithing may continue through the actual finished product, because it's intentionally designed to allow for some organic thinking, which Dr. Harrell, you brought up the point that came from the conversation, that pivot from the graduate to the learner. So the second piece is that idea of a profile. So if we can articulate, this is what we believe, and like you described, I mean, this is it. This is our soul in Northside. Then what is it? What kind of characteristics should we be seeing in our students? And we talked about that really. We want to see it in 3rd graders. We want to see it in 2nd graders. We want to see it in 10th graders. And as they move to graduate and go on to their next steps, that will help ensure their success. So you see here, and again, we have pictures through of all steps of this process. So a profile includes the most vital characteristics that we believe are necessary for success. So you'll see on the next is our draft. And you can think of these words as nouns, or you can say it as adjectives. So for example, our NISD learners will be creators. You could also say it, they will be creative. So we talked a lot about, there's all kinds of ways that you can use parts of speech. But the idea is that each of these characteristics, they're not synonymous. The group felt like it wasn't saying the same thing in a different way. It aligned with our research that talked about the types of thinking that students need in order to be creators and collaborators. The last piece where you see problem solvers and solution finders, we know that's kind of clunky, but that's where the committee that's where it ended. So we'll kind of continue to massage that.
Do any trustees have any questions?
Monica, you may want to go back.
You know, one thing, I'm just going to, historical perspective. So, and the reason I asked about the makeup of the committee, and it's not that I certainly don't want, I don't want our colleges involved in the process, or that I don't want business involved. But I remember when I first got on the board, there was a real push from the business community to tell public schools what they needed to do with their students to make them successful in their companies. And I know because my company was one of the companies involved in that. And so what came out of it, what I walked away with as a trustee was, I'm not in this for us to educate students to be able to go out and just function as a corporate widget. That's not what our goal is. That's not what our job was. And so there were a lot of things that they were saying, and it was just a very interesting time in public ed at that time, because the business community was really putting a lot of pressure on us on what we should be teaching and what we should be doing. And what we said then and what we've continued to say over the last 20 some odd years of being involved in this is we want well-rounded students. We want to give students as many experiences and opportunities while they are in our public schools, and we want them to be well-rounded when they walk out. And then if they want to go work for a company, that company can train them for however they want them to perform within their company. But that what our job and responsibility is that they are well-rounded, that we've opened their eyes to as much as possible. And so Janice, I just say, when I look at this, does that say that?
I would absolutely say unequivocally yes.
Okay.
Because what you don't see here, and that's going to be part of the onus on us, for those who were there, the process that we went through to get this, the things that we read and unpacked. And so part of kind of the art of how we communicate this, these are all going to need to be fleshed out to show what that means. I know that time that you're talking about. I was in Victoria ISD at that time when it was all about businesses coming together, and literally they said, we need you, schools,
To do these things.
to do X, Y, Z. Well, what we know right now is we must build thinkers, creators. We must build those, what they call those soft skills. Grit, persistence, resilience, all of those are equally as important.
Communication.
Communication. You see across the top, those three pieces, creators, collaborators, and communicators, there's much written about that is necessary in any role. You know, one of the things that's changed since then is, you know, you used to be able to predict. You would prepare students for a job. What job or career do you want? Whereas now it's about what kind of skills and ways of being, because we don't know all the jobs that they're going to be. So yes, I remember that time very well. And we did the exact same thing. And then you end up with something that's really almost a box.
It took away all of it was a very, it was a very frightening time. So what's really important to me in your group, is that our community is represented. Because our community may not necessarily agree with everything that the business community may say, but the people that pay our taxes and the ones that support our public schools in our school district, I want to make sure that they're represented. I want to know when I go to HEB that, you know, we're representing and we're teaching and we're communicating and we're doing everything that this community wants, not someone in Austin.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, someone, you know, and that's why I find it very interesting, and I think that's great that there were students. I mean, because really, they're the ones that we sometimes don't spend enough time getting their input, and they're the ones that are experiencing what we're hoping that we're
They had one group who the
generating.
student, they were actually putting the profile things on the student as a visual.
Oh, very
So,
good,
yeah.
very good.
So,
Dr. Harrell.
No, there were a couple one-liners, and Janice, you probably say it better, but I think at the onset of the strategic planning address and welcome and showing everyone who was there how appreciative we were that they came, it was stated that this is more or less, and I don't want to downplay the contributions, but it's an advisory group. And I that kind of had to sink in for just a minute, because these people are spending a lot of their time, but yet we need their wisdom, we need their insights, we need their perspective, we need their collaboration. But ultimately, the board and district staff are really the experts on a lot of these things. In fact, our table had a couple folks that were asking a lot of educational ease kind of questions. And so I don't think it would, I don't want to say we won't go back, because I lived through that as well, but I don't think we will. I think our leadership, you know, not just in this room, but in the district, coupled with the board, coupled with, and then not coupled, then it wouldn't be coupled, but informed by our Northside community, valuing our rich, you know, heritage and history and just what makes Northside great, I think it won't happen. And so we learned our lesson. And but at the same time, it's important to hear those things so that you're very aware of what's going on, so that our students ultimately benefit. So, but I agree. Good points.
So just as a way forward, what I think I hear is a couple of conversations. One perhaps at committee, and then another with the larger group, if at all possible, with trustees, so that I think it is valuable for you all to hear what folks are saying and not have it, you know, interpreted through. I just frankly think that it's more genuine. It adds to the conversation. So, and it's been really rich conversation to this point. So we'll try to get those scheduled here in the next few days. Those follow-ups.
If you could just give us, you know, dates, maybe as options, and then we'll see.
We'll try to coordinate.
You know, just don't have it the fourth Thursday in January, please.
We know that'll be a conflict.
That'll be a conflict. All right. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you.
Thank you. The next item of business on the agenda. Mobile device deployment. Lori Jones. We have not seen you in a while.
I've been wearing my ABUs for a lot of the last few months, but I bring a little bit lighter topic than strategic planning this evening. President Chumley, members of the board, Dr. Woods, on behalf of Technology Services, I'm bringing before the board this evening a request to purchase over 22,000 mobile devices for student use across Northside. In May 2018, Northside passed a bond proposal which included $46.5 million for campus technology deployments. As you're aware, funds have been included in Northside bond proposals dating all the way back to 1998 for technology equipment. Included in the 2018 bond standards for campus technology was funding for the deployment of mobile devices for student use. The increase in student mobile devices provided to each campus to previous technology bond programs is based on feedback received from teachers, curriculum and instruction, and students who have stated mobile devices allow for max ability and increased instructional time with technology devices. To meet this need, we are planning to deploy 17,300 Chromebooks to grades 3 to 12 and 5,400 iPads to grades K through 2. The type of device being purchased by grade level is based again on input from both campus and instructional staff. If approved, the technology services staff are looking to deploy these mobile devices in the spring of 2019, which will allow for maximum equity across all Northside campuses when it comes to the availability of technology use. Deployment of these devices as a singular project over the course of a 16-week period will help campuses maximize the use of their technology and will also allow for curriculum instruction to better plan for the widespread use of online instructional tools. The action respectfully being requested of the Board of Trustees tonight is to approve 6 requisitions in the amount of $6,851,536 for the purchase of student mobile devices as part of the overall 2018 bond technology program. You all have a detailed chart in your board agenda of the requisitions, the items to be purchased, along with the respective amounts.
If I could just add, thanks, Lori, appreciate that. If I could just add, just a reminder for the members of the board, we do have a commitment in fund balance for the refresh of these items. We understand that mobile devices don't live forever, and so we have a commitment of fund balance for the refresh of these items going forward. That's also been something we've been doing for a while, so just as a reminder.
And that concludes my remarks. Ms. Chumley, pending any questions from the Board of Trustees regarding this request.
Okay, do any trustees have questions? Ms. Reed?
I would move approval.
Second.
Ms. Freeman?
I was just going to add, we did discuss it at technology committee meeting. We had a great presentation on this, and it's certainly an opportunity for our kids. You said this is the course of 16 weeks, is that
Yes, ma'am.
right?
Yes, ma'am. So if approved tonight, we'll process the requisitions and we'll start the purchasing process and the logistics. And so we'll start as early as January. So we'll start getting scheduled and getting the devices out in January. And Trejo, our director for technology acquisition and project management, he's got a 16-week schedule to get them out to all the campuses.
And certainly staff development goes along with all of this. We have our coaches and
Absolutely, staff development's been an ongoing process. We deployed, I'm going to try to do the math in my head, about 29,000 of similar devices a couple years back with a very strong staff development program. And to be honest with you, I think that's the reason for a lot of the feedback in this bond cycle was that's been so well received, getting the Chromebooks and the iPads. I think that's why there was a request for more of them, because they've been so well received and they've been used so much and are in such high demand.
thank you, Lori.
So, Lori, I've just got a couple of questions. I had talked to Brian about it previously because it just concerns me because technology is changing so quickly. And I know you were talking about that we have, this plan, but it's just so much money for something that will last. iPhones come out, every couple of years with some change. So when you looked at this, do you feel that these are going to give us the broadest use of our funds in relation to how long these will stay viable?
Absolutely. So you're right on track with your questioning. that's a part of all the things that we looked at when we recommended these types of devices. How are they going to be used? What's the best type of device for the use? And that's really why you're kind of seeing the narrowing to different types of devices. Chromebooks are great devices, again, 3 through 12 devices that you have a keyboard on, very cost effective. They're, in relation to iPads, and those tend to be used a lot more effectively in those grades. The lower grade levels, where they do a lot of creation, things like that, tend to be a better tool for them. A little bit more expensive. Those tend to last a little bit longer in terms of a life cycle. We're just now getting actually to where we're getting towards the end of the life cycle of Chromebooks. So we think we're going to get about at least 4 good years out of Chromebooks, 4 or maybe 5 years out of an iPad.
Okay. And so, because I was picturing, because I know like at BCHS, every student has a,
Yes.
and so I was picturing just, kindergartners running wild
That's not what this
with
is.
their iPads on.
It's not kindergartners running wild.
Yes, and that, but my understanding is that a large part of this, in fact, the majority of it is more the carts for the classes. So they will have access, and then they'll have a loaner program if they want to, like if for kids, some of our students that don't have the technology at home, but they'll have a loaner program to be able to take the Chromebook or the iPad out. But the majority of it, particularly on the elementary level, is the carts where they'll have access to them all day long.
Yes, ma'am. Matter of fact, all of these 22,000 devices, we're talking about deploying them in a cart model. So that's part of what we're
Okay.
recommending tonight is requisitions that include the carts that we're going to actually put those devices in. And so that, again, the carts are kind of in I think they're 22 to a cart. 30, 32. So it's basically a mobile lab or for a class. A whole class can get the cart and use it for a classroom project.
Okay.
Then it can get rolled next door and use the next period for somebody else. And so a lot of that goes on the campus really for the planning on how to use the devices. And again, it goes back. They all have devices right now, and they're not enough. They want more, and so that's part of the planning that happened in the 2018 bond is trying to get more student devices out there for them.
And then what about deployment to the middle school and high school levels?
This is K-12.
Yes, this is a K-12.
Right.
K-12.
And so what I'm asking though is, are we giving them then in the high schools? I mean,
Yes, so they're all in the CART model. Yeah, they'll all
that's
be
what I'm
deployed
asking,
in
Lori.
that
So
manner.
are they all, even the high school ones? So
Yes.
so this isn't like the kind of deployment that, and I apologize, I haven't made the technology committee meeting. So all of these are the CART models. So this, we're not having a deployment like we have at BCHS, where
No.
we actually give,
This is not a one-to-one type initiative.
not,
No.
right,
No.
it's going to be all the carts.
Right, and it's basically it's already been deployed to these campuses, so all of them
Right.
have gotten some type of Chromebooks and iPads, and so it's getting more of the devices that have already been deployed.
And so do we ever, I mean, do you think down the line that we would be looking at a one-on-one deployment? Because I know that over the last couple of bonds, we've talked about that before.
Sure.
About instead of doing this type model, of just doing a one-on-one deployment to kids.
I will say my politically correct answer, and that's I'm the requirements guy, so my requirements driven by curriculum instruction. And so if they tell me that that's what is best for students, then we'll do what we can to crunch the numbers and make it happen. But right now,
Very well spoken.
right now, this is the requirement is the model bring before you this evening.
No, that's fine, Lori. We'll have that discussion in academics. Very well spoken.
That continues to be a discussion, but we're not ready for that yet.
Okay. All right. Dr. Harrell. And
I just
Dr.
one
Lopez.
real quick question, because it was technology but not academics, and academics informs technology, right? You just said that.
Yes.
So I just have a real quick question. If I'm at an elementary school, are fifth graders only relegated to using the Chromebooks? Or let's say I'm doing some sort of hydroponic garden or something. Can I go get the iPads for that use, or is there flexibility between
Yes.
equipment for the purpose?
There's absolutely flexibility. We deploy based on a formula. They go out to the campus, and it's really an instructional-based decision on the campus how they're used.
Right.
I will tell you, at elementary schools, we've deployed both iPads. I mean, across all levels, we've already deployed iPads and Chrome. So those are available today at the campuses. This really just supplements what's already been provided. And we focused really on the 3 through 12, the Chromebooks, because that back we're getting from campuses on what they want more of are the Chromebooks.
Great, thanks.
All right, Mr. Lopez?
My question was answered already previously, so please
Okay.
switch that. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second before us to approve the mobile device deployment. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much. Next item of business on the agenda is request for maximum class size waivers. Mr. Galindo.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Chumley was trustees as we've done the last few months. We asked tonight for 20 class waivers. That puts our total at 165. But out of our 1,907 classrooms, that's an 8.6% percentage. So that means obviously overwhelmingly our classrooms are still well within the 22 to 1. And actually the average remains well below that at 20.09. So the ask or the approval is for the 20 class waivers to move forward.
All right. Do any trustees have any questions? Not, can I have a motion come for the board?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the request for maximum class size waivers. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. Next item of business on the agenda is the future agenda items. Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Chumley, you've only got a couple of items in your blue folder tonight. One is obviously our list of agenda items. You'll notice that in February, we do have a called meeting, our budget conversation. I know it just feels like we just finished the budget conversation, but it is time to look towards that. You also have in your folder a copy of the annual report from our adult and community education group. There's a copy of that in there for you as well. And that's that, Ms. Chumley.
All right, thank you very much. Linda, are there any dates or any that you need from us? Is there anything outstanding from us? All right, that's good. And then, so the only thing we have is that y'all will be looking for some dates, sending us for this, and then Carol, you'll have the academics committee meeting prior to the strategic plan. That sounds great. All right. I wanted to share with the board that, number one, Bobby is not here because he has a family commitment. And then we received a thank you from Robert Marbut's government class. Dear Northside ISD School Board, thank you for recognizing our NVC government class at your October 23rd school board meeting. It was a great experience to witness how efficient NISD is ran and how dedicated you all are to the education and well-being of students. Thank you for the opportunity to represent Northwest Vista. I thought that was pretty nice. All right, so the board is about to go into closed session. And I can't find what I'm supposed to be saying. You don't need it. There it is. All right. So the Board of Trustees on December 11th, beginning at 8:50, will convene in closed meeting in accordance with Texas Government Code Sections 551.072 and 551.074. The Board of Trustees on December 11th, beginning at 10:05, will convene an open meeting. Action will be taken on the following items, the administrative appointments. Is there a motion to come for the board?
I would move that we approve the recommendations for as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the recommendation of administrators as presented in closed session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the ayes have it, the motion carries. There being no further business, the board ended its meeting at 10:06 on December 11th.